G'day Bomber fans, if there are any around watching this, I think a few of us have gone into hiding after that last game. That was atrocious. We genuinely almost lost against West Coast. It feels bad to even say out loud. This is a major reality check. It's going to be a somber round review. It feels a bit weird to win and feel this bad about things. Before I get into it though, get your votes in down below, 3-2-1 Brownlow style, Bomber players only. We start with the first quarter. That was not enjoyable. There were games where you scream at your TV, but I couldn't even be bothered. It was that boring. West Coast were happy to play really slow and dull footy, and we weren't good enough to make them pay for it, so it was low scoring, low energy, low pressure, boring footy. We looked downright disinterested. I was downright disinterested. We actually trailed at quarter time. We were down by a goal against West Coast at home. I know there would have been a few fans around who tuned out, and you can't really blame them. That was one of our worst terms of the year, and it would obviously get worse from there. Before it got worse, it did get better for a bit though. That second quarter, we corrected a lot of our wrongdoings. We stopped simply bombing the thing in high and long. We had lowered our eyes, and you could tell Langford, who is our smartest positional forward, found himself on the end of 5 set shots in one quarter, kicking 4 of them. 2 weren't contested marks, but it showed that we weren't kicking and hoping for pack marks. We were finding the right options and finding space where we could. It also helped that our pressure lifted, so we had the ball in better areas because of that. We switched roles a bit. We seemed more into it, and because we are the better team, we made it count on the scoreboard. The third quarter, I talked about the first being frustrating, but this was just horrid. We had them on the ropes. We looked like overrunning them early. That 60 to 70 point margin was on the cards there for a minute. They looked spent. We looked the goods, but out of nowhere, they just found an extra gear and we remained complacent. They won the quarter, kept us to just 1 goal, actually had control of the play. It was a bit embarrassing as a fan because at least in the first it was us not taking chances but having ascendancy around the ground. Here we were actually struggling. Credit to the Eagles, they did look good and came to play, but this is what I said in the preview: don't give them a sniff. If you give them a sniff, they will make it rough, and we gave them a cheeky little sniff. We took our foot off the gas when we had that comfortable lead, which of course helped them find some goals they shouldn't have to make the lead a little less comfortable. Talk about a nervous finish. I was genuinely crapping my pants for the majority of that final term. We lost the lead. Not many teams trail the Eagles late in games, let alone in the final 2 minutes. We got the job done, thankfully, though. Langford saved us 5 goals for the second week in a row, the last coming in the final minute or so. BZT stood up with a huge intercept grab to ice it. It would have been a huge win with moments like that to remember back on if we were up against any other team. It's 4 points, but valuable percentage flushed down the drain. So let's talk about this game. Why did we look so shot as a team, so tired? Are we officially done for the year? Are we checked out? Or was this just another case of Essendon coming into a game complacent like we saw with North earlier in the season? Well, like it's been for a lot of the year, we really struggled when the opposition got momentum. Just look at our recent game against Sydney. That Anzac Day last quarter is another one that we often think back on. We have let teams steamroll us with pressure. Even our best at times become passengers, and we often have to rely on individual acts of brilliance, usually from players like Merritt, to get us back in the right mindset. We let the Eagles control periods of that game, which is really disappointing. They were well and truly on top in that second half. In fact, they won every quarter except the second, which is just not good enough. We cannot rely on one good quarter to beat teams in such an even comp. Even North will tear us apart if we play like that against them next week. Our ball use was dreadful at times. I just know people are going to complain about McGrath and Parrish, but it wasn't just them. Even Merritt coughed it up a lot. Our best users were to blame as well. It was a team-wide epidemic of poor kicking. I talked about our entries needing to be efficient, and we saw what it looked like for a quarter, but we made it easy for them sometimes with the way we moved the ball, and it sucks because we looked at our best against the Crows movement-wise, and since then have relapsed a bit and looked second-rate. I would love nothing more than for us to finish the year looking like we did against the Crows, because this recent game was just ugly to watch. Our forward setup is near full strength, but looks worse than it did when we had players out earlier in the year. It raises serious questions about how we line up. We missed Guelphy and Peter Wright and others early in the season and had no difficulty scoring, and now it looks like an issue even with those players back. I really think we are too right reliant at times. He is our only proper key forward, which makes it tough. I do think we would look at least a tad more competent with another marking target, but no one is really commanding a spot in the team that much. When we come up against good ball reading defenders like McGovern, we get a bit exposed. That GWS game in 2 weeks, that could be really ugly. Sam Taylor and Jack Buckley will mop the floor with us if we play like the way we are now. And even when we do get on top, we waste our chances. That last quarter, we looked like we were trying to lose. Easy misses from Guelphy and Parrish. Really, not Parrish, sorry, Phillips. Really gettable chances from other players as well. We're lucky we have Kyle Langford, because without him, we went at 5 goals and 10 behinds. We were hopeless at locking the ball in our forward 50. We went 2 full quarters with 1 or fewer repeat inside 50 entries. We only had 4 more inside 50s than them, despite having more clearances and way more contested possessions. Our pressure around the ground was okay, but we had 10 tackles inside the arc compared to their 16. It's the worst we've looked pressure-wise inside 50 all year. Guelphy and Menzies and Co had down days. We are genuinely lucky that Langford was so good in the air, because when it came came to ground, it favoured the Eagles, which I didn't see being a theme before the bounce. Our forward pressure has hurt us a lot in the last few weeks, so we are now easy to score against from defence. Opposition teams love to walk the ball out of our attacking 50 and put real pressure on our midfield and even more pressure on our defence. They really did have the game played the way they wanted it to be played for the most part. When it was on our terms is what happened. We piled on goals, but they were content just chipping around, frustrating us, making us chase. They played a bit like how we have at times this year, plenty of uncontested marks around in defence, slow transition through the ground. It's why they had a disposal efficiency percent of over 80. They were genuinely impressive moving the ball, and I don't think we expected it as a team. We didn't defend their moving ball well at all, but we did manage to defend inside our D50 effectively, which is lucky because if we hadn't, we would have lost. I feel like I'm disrespecting the Eagles a bit, talking so poorly of us. I want to say this West Coast team is not the team we played a few months ago. They are much better now, but even West Coast at their best shouldn't be getting this close. This is a clear example of complacency. It's arrogance without presentation. We thought we could show up and get the 4 points, and we did, but it won over no respect. We should not be pleased with this result. No one should. It's genuinely embarrassing. It shows we are not going to be finals ready, which isn't a bad thing, but this is a reality check. We can't play like this. If Scott wants to build this club around being trustworthy, he has to show us. Words don't mean anything if they can't be backed up, and yes, we are young. Young teams often falter late in years, but good teams don't play like that. You can use every excuse you want to, injuries, youth, opposition exceeding expectations, but nothing will change my mind. This feels like a loss. I struggle to find positives from results like this. I guess the only positive is that we won the match. We clutched up. That's about it. I'm not trying to be cynical. I just don't think we can take much out of that game that will hold us in good stead for the future, aside from the experience of a near disaster. We barely survived. It was a great escape. We got lucky. The umpires helped us out. Certain individual players played out of their skin, but we can't be happy with what we saw as a fan base. Aside from the Dogs, Cats, and Freo game, this is our 4th worst match of the year in my opinion. I hated what I saw unfold, but let's get into the votes because there were some good performers. 1 vote to Brendan Zerk-Thatcher. He kept the Eagles' keys, most notably Oscar Allen, down when on them. He had huge moments, the most intercept marks and intercept possessions. Nick Hind, 2 votes. That's the Nick Hind we brought into the team. Run and dash, no fear. He is in the team for a reason when he plays like that. We look better with him there. And 3 votes, no surprises, Kyle Langford. He really did save us. 5 goals, 10 involvements, 5 marks inside 50. He's closing the gap between himself and Merritt in the lead, and he's genuinely in the All-Australian race, which is awesome. Any unlucky? I thought Parrish was influential. He was huge at times. People are talking down on him, but he led the ground for clearances and score involvements. Zach Merritt was also pretty good. 4th or 5th best for me, along with Redmond. He'll probably get a few votes from you guys. Perkins had a great first half. Durham had a great first half, but that's that. Video done. We got the win, but it was ugly. I am not pleased, as you can tell. Hopefully we aren't complacent next weekend. We have an interesting run of games coming up, but that's that. Cheers for watching, Don fans.